Howdy, this is Lemmy with RevZilla, here to talk to you today about S&S MK45 mufflers for Harley touring bikes. You should be looking into a set of S&S MK45 mufflers for your touring rig if you want it to look better and you want it to sound a little bit better. Now, S&S is making these for a pretty wide variety of motorcycles. Just about every single touring bike from 1995 to present day will accept a set of MK45 mufflers, including you guys who are rocking Milwaukee 8 engines. However, Fitment gets a little bit tricky. We're going to talk about it in just a little bit. Keep in mind, though, those are the applications that will actually accept these as a bolt-up item. Now, installation on these is very, very simple. You're looking at a 1 beard in our beard scale of difficulty. If you can use a socket and a ratchet and get your bags off, you're pretty much set to fly. We'll talk about installation just a little bit. Let's get into the mufflers themselves right now. So I was interested in these when I first learned of them. S&S named these things the MK45, and I wanted to know what that was all about. Turns out the MK45 is actually a piece of naval artillery. They've named these things after. Those are 5-inch guns, and it's kind of fitting because these are 4.5-inch mufflers. You'll notice these babies are absolutely monstrous, yet their sound is kind of Jekyll and Hyde. Why don't you wrap your ears around them before I keep going on these? Now the sound, as I mentioned, Jekyll and Hyde. You kind of have, you have the ability to have a super loud exhaust, lots of bass, lots of rumble from these huge cavernous mufflers here. But if you want to tone them down a little bit, it's absolutely possible, and that has to do with the way that S&S has actually constructed these. They made these mufflers unlike most of the other stuff on the market for a Harley Davidson. What you've got here is a large body muffler, and if you look inside of this puppy, you'll actually notice that this thing does have a baffled section in here. And it's not just louver core stuff, they've actually got these packed up correctly. You're looking at fiberglass as well as stainless inside of those, help keep the noise down, and that stainless, again, it's not going to fly right out and go away quickly. Instead, they're going to last a long time here. But the reason these things can also be quiet is due to these dB killers. Rather than most mufflers that give you a choice between baffling or unbaffling and either being legal or illegal, S&S doesn't do that. What they've done here is actually put a dB killer in here, and the dB killer really attenuates some of the sound. You guys know that especially on large body mufflers like these, they can just get unbearingly loud. But fortunately, thanks to these dB killers, the tone can be kept very, very nice without the ear-splitting volume that normally comes with such a sewer pipe sized exhaust. So it's kind of a nice addition there, and they pop out really, really simply. Now I recognize most of you are probably going to be zipping around with these things in most of the time, but if you do any time at the drag strip, you really want to make a little bit of noise, it really is just 2 bolts on each muffler and they slide right out. It's very simple. You're not wrestling with them. You don't need pliers. You don't need to work them out of there. It's a little bit different, and again, kind of a thinking man's muffler if you ask me. I really do like that about these. So we were chatting for just a little bit earlier about Fitment too. So one of the things that's cool that S&S has really made a push in lately is staying EPA and CARB, that's the California Air Resources Board, compliant, and these mufflers are absolutely no exception. So while these things will fit every single touring bike, 95 and newer, regardless of whether you're on a twin cam engine or a Milwaukee 8, there are some things to just keep in the back of your mind. If you're riding an 04, 05, or 08 bike, your cats are actually in your mufflers. So these will actually bolt up to your motorcycle. However, they may not be compliant in terms of emissions. Up to you to make sure that you're keeping your bike compliant. So let's get into that installation phase of things. If you've never put a set of mufflers onto a touring bike, you shouldn't be scared at all. It's a very simple job. If you can get your bags off, you're pretty much halfway there. After that, it's simply 6 bolts to get these things on and off, and that includes the muffler clamps as well. I can usually swap a set in about 20 minutes if I'm working reasonably quickly. If you take anything longer than an hour, if you crest that hour mark, you're probably working way too slow and doing something wrong. Absolutely cake job. Anybody can do it. I love S&S products. I run them on a lot of my bikes. I think these things are an absolutely killer addition. Between the fact they are, again, pushing that EPA and carb compliance, and the fact that you sort of have, two different types of mufflers. You've got a loud set and a quiet set without doing really much work at all. I think it's a really nice addition there. Don't take my word for it though. Click that info button on your desktop or your mobile device. See what some other folks who are rocking Mark 45s on their touring rig have to say about them. If you need a little bit more help, some more individualized attention, perhaps you run into a fitment or an installation snafu, do not be afraid to get a hold of us. You can get a Gear Geek on the horn, 877-792-9455. You can always send us an email too. See us at RevZilla.com. I'm Lemmy. I'm out of here.